Where's a nerd when you need one? Oh, he's right here. Translating technobabble to English, your translation expert, Benjamin Rockwell, is here with Computer Talk Radio.
The website, computertalkradio.com, computertalkradio.com. The phone number, 888-NERD, 888. That's 888-6373-888. I am a computer nerd. However, I try to bring this information to you in plain English. I try to bring you knowledge and news and the rest of it in simple to understand terms. If at any point in time we go over your head, it's okay. I'm not going to tell anybody, but if you drop me a line or whether it's on the website or phone call, it doesn't matter. It's going to be our little secret. So, by all means, I want to make sure that you are informed. Coming up later on this hour, we're going to have Keith M. Cedar. He's going to be talking. I've got a question for him. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I will ask him a question. Coming up next, I'm going to give kind of a rundown on a lot of the social media sites out there. I had some questions from a listener that they were trying to figure out a lot of different things, so we'll be handling that next. But first, as we always do, let's talk about the tech news from the past week. And, okay, this is, at times we are going to wind up covering news, but from the technical perspective. For instance, yes, there was a big, huge to-do in the House of Representatives when Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, said, we're done with talking about gun control. We want to wrap up a few more things before we go on to recess. Well, a small group of representatives didn't like that. They said, no, we're gonna basically sit here on the floor and we're going to camp out, do a sit-in and the whole 9 yards on that. Well, okay. I'm updating you so you understand the story. So Paul Ryan killed the camera feed to C-SPAN. He said, "Nope, that's it. We're pretty much going to go home. It's time for us to head home for the 4th of July break." Don't get me started on the 4th of July break, which lasts like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I guess, whatever it is. 2 weeks for 4th of July. I get a day. Most people I know get a day, maybe 2 days. A week? Yeah, not so likely. 2 weeks? Forget it. Well, of course, that's Congress. We pay them, you know that, right? Anyways, so they're there, and what do? Well, I mean, this does break. There were so many rules that were broken for the House of Representatives, interrupting, talking over the Speaker of the House for refusing to come to order, or bringing cell phones onto the floor. Why do I say this? Because very ingenious, very new approach to technology. What happened was Paul Ryan had turned off the cameras, so they decided they were going to turn on the cameras, not the chamber cameras, because they had no access to that, but they did have access to their iPhones, their smartphones, and they started using something called Periscope. Now, I've been familiar with Periscope. It's a neat little app that allows you to broadcast live video, and we're going to be talking about that a lot more in the next segment, but this is a very interesting direction. A lot of people apparently viewed some of the video and followed along with some of this. So a very interesting development. It'll be interesting to see how they proceed in other directions. New York has passed a bill that, and this is their legislature. This is going to go on to the governor. But the bill basically says that if you are doing an entire home short-term rental on Airbnb or another service, that's longer, you can't do it longer than or shorter than 30 days. It's kind of telling Airbnb and the few other competitors to Airbnb. And the reason for this, they say, is because there were people who owned big, huge apartment complexes or homes, many stories tall, and they were basically turning them into a hotel. There's a little bit of a tweak that they've done, and what that has basically said is you have to live there. So you can rent out an additional room if you want or something like that, but they want people on site. And I don't know. This is kind of it seems like it's going to kind of hurt the people who, and this was brought up by a number of people, it's going to hurt the people who want to go on vacation but normally couldn't afford to do it. A lot of people are swapping out, utilizing Airbnb. They rent their home and then they go rent somebody else's home. And it kind of turns out to be a wash. They have to pay for the airfare, but that's the extent of it. So it's kind of a neat concept. I think New York has gone a little bit far, but I don't know. That's just me. Facebook has decided they're going to add a training program for their employees to address concerns that the company has biases against conservatives. Now, I don't care who you have a bias against. If you're running any kind of a service that is appealing to 1.5 billion people every month, and the numbers go back and forth depending on who's reporting them and so forth, but one of the numbers that I saw was 1.5 billion people every month. You really should be working to make sure that you are not suppressing or promoting any views on your own. Let the people do that on their own, especially when this was, again, never mind. We've covered this before. Amazon is now running the third largest streaming service, Amazon Video. This was very interesting. They're third, basically. They're behind Netflix, and of course, and we don't normally think of this, but YouTube. But of course, YouTube has kind of a different advantage there because, yes, YouTube is still a streaming service, even though they're not charging for it. Oh, I should have done this particular Facebook item a moment ago, but Mark Zuckerberg was being interviewed, and he was talking about a number of different things. Well, they had a picture that they found of him in amongst this interview, and on his laptop, well, it seems that he's utilizing Scotch tape over his camera and over his microphone to keep people from spying on him. Well, that's interesting, considering how much that Facebook does to monitor us and follow us and see what we're doing. I guess what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. But who knows? I will admit that we all should have a healthy sense of paranoia. If you never use your webcam, there's nothing wrong with putting Scotch tape over it. Or if you've got a black screen, which most people do, I've seen people utilize small pieces of electrical tape, and that's perfectly fine. One more item here before we head on out of the news. There was an interesting study that was done that was originally this is what made it kind of fun, kind of interesting to me. There was a satirical news site called The Science Post. Well, they published a block of text. It's called Lorem Ipsum. And they did a very scary headline. 70% of Facebook users only read the headline of science stories before commenting. The very interesting thing was it went viral. And guess how many people were actually sharing the link without reading it? 6 in 10. It's interesting that satire, that 70%, turned out to be closer to real life in the 60%. They had no idea that this was going to happen, and they got a big kick out of it. I'm just dumbfounded. Look, forward things you've read, but don't just forward things just for the sake of forwarding wherever you are. We think the headlines are exciting and whatnot, but yeah, read it. You never know. There could be some clickbait out there, and a number of other things. So, coming up next, I'm going to be talking about all of the different social media websites. Kind of a countdown. I'm going to count them down in size. Or count them up, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure that out. That'll be coming up next here on Computer Talk Radio.
Let me tell you about The Radio Factory, an exciting new venue for talk radio. It's the internet, the wave of the present. My name is Benjamin Rockwell, and I'm the host of a syndicated radio program, Computer Talk Radio, so I know the internet is here and now. Many of the hosts at theradiofactory.com have their own podcasts or radio shows across the country, but many people like the comfort of listening to their own special radio show at a specific time and day, much like we watch live television. The internet, as you're probably aware, is a powerful tool that allows the Radio Factory to deliver unique programming with far more variety than the windbags who are simply about contriving up viewpoints to get you riled up. Additionally, you'll find that many of the programs are shorter, giving more information in less time. Stick with theradiofactory.com and see how it evolves to keep you entertained, interested, informed, and above all, intelligent. After all, the Radio Factory motto is building your intelligence one talk show at a time. theradiofactory.com.
The website, computertalkradio.com. Why is this going to be kind of ironic? Well, because all I'm going to talk about are websites, and I'm going to skip over I'm going to give you the names on some of these, or the websites on some of these, but mostly we're going to just stick with the names of them, and that's because I've got a lot of them here. How many? I'm going to give you the top 15 plus 2 more. Now, all of these stats come from Alexa.com. Now, this is the top website for determining where people go on the internet and stuff like that. Now, I want to touch on the fact that the first 2, we don't have good solid numbers on them. I couldn't find anything on Alexa within a reasonable number that was compared to what these websites were claiming. So, first off, Periscope. Periscope, we talked about this during the news. This is a live web video broadcasting item. You use your smartphone. And it's owned by Twitter, so maybe Alexa's grouping this in with the Twitter numbers. I hadn't thought about that till just now. But you can start a new broadcast, and you can send out notifications to your friends and stuff like that, and they can interact while you're broadcasting. And it also is set up so you can see a replay for anybody who missed out, and you can also do private broadcasts just for specific people. Now, it's a very interesting approach. It's a little bit different than FaceTime or anything like that. It's bringing it to a service level. The next one I'm going to talk about is Snapchat. And Snapchat is a very popular one. They claim over 100 million users each day. Now, I've got some concerns because there's a lot of questions to that number, and people have pointed this out in a number of spots. It's not on Alexa's list here, so I'm wondering if this is maybe 100 million uses each day, or maybe they're using some other counting method as far as who is a user. Maybe it's because it's just an app. It's the Snapchat app. There's very little in regards to the website. Maybe that's throwing this off. Who knows? Classmates.com. 15 million people use this every month. Now, this originally was for helping you and I and a number of other people out there find classmates colleagues from anywhere from kindergarten all the way on up through now. So even in the workplace, in the military, college, wherever. In 2010, they started to migrate, and they did a lot more of nostalgic content. They brought in things like yearbooks, movie and music tracks, photos, things like that. So they're still working on somewhat of that same original premise, but they've evolved it somewhat. It's changed from how it used to be. Ask.fm is ask.fm is the website. It's an interesting website. It's an anonymous question and answer platform that's been used by lots of youth. Now, what's happened, though, is there has been a lot of abuse within that platform. And I think that's stifling the platform. I think it's holding it back. 37 million people every month. But right now it's getting to be kind of ugly. There's anonymous comments, and there can be questions that are being posted to people's profiles. And this is being used to do bullying, to do a variety of other kinds of internet abuse, as well as some of the content which is wholly inappropriate for the young people, or, well, really any people that are using it. So that concerns me. But, you know, an anonymous area can always be used like that. Website called Meetup. All right, Meetup is a network of localized groups. It's worldwide, but it allows you to organize a group and meet people face to face. You've got a common thing, and this is probably going to be thought of more like there are a number of people who belong to different organizations. Here, let me give you an example. The Sons of the American Revolution and the Daughters of the American Revolution. My mom belongs to one. I'm looking at belonging to the other. And no, I'm not going to join Daughters of the American Revolution, just clarifying that. But I am looking into it right now. And that is an organization across the country. Well, what about a localized organization? What about basically, I don't know, whatever comes to mind. 40 million people are utilizing this. And this allows you to get together in your local community and also improve yourself and your community. So this is actually a really neat idea. And it is growing. The next one on the list is called Vine. This is also owned by Twitter. Now, mind you, we already covered the fact that they own Periscope. So Periscope and Vine are very similar in that they're both mobile video services. Well, this kind of blows my theory earlier out of the water. My theory that Periscope's numbers... no, I guess that was Snapchat. Anyways, look, Vine is an interesting concept. This is for the people who have ADD. This is for someone who wants to watch something that is a short story. Forget it, short story. You can't really convey a whole lot of information in the time that these videos last. How long? 6 seconds. Yeah, 6 seconds. And they actually, the videos that are there, they play on a loop, so they just loop constantly. And it's a great concept, and maybe that's actually contributing to ADD. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, we're at a point now where we're trying to just find out about our friends in 6 seconds. Yeah, maybe that's not such a great idea after all. Coming up at number 11 on this list, Flickr. 65 million people every month utilize Flickr. It's basically right up there, one of the top photo sharing networks, and it's owned by Yahoo. So it's been around since before Pinterest and Instagram, which we will get into here in a few minutes. But it is one of those websites which has been just doing great for ages. You can store roughly a terabyte worth of photos for free, and you can organize and edit them utilizing the Flickr website. Number 10 on the list, 80 million people use it every month. Russia's largest social network, competing almost directly against Facebook, VK.com. Most of us don't even need to really worry about it. We don't have to deal with it at all. But it's on the list here. Reddit, you probably have seen this, Reddit, and it is a very interesting website in that it allows people to have conversations. They talk about the topics that they really enjoy, and you can share photos, videos, links, anything that's relevant to the topic thread in which you are participating in. And what happens is, as people go through and they develop something within, as you go and you post something, it gets voted up or down, and in particular categories, whatever category you're posting it to. So if you receive more votes, it's going to get pushed to the first page, and so forth and so on. So very interesting approach, meaning the hottest topics are going to be covered and pushed the most. We've got more of these coming up next here on Computer Talk Radio.
Micro Center, home to all kinds of electronics and computer items, has over 20 locations across the country, and it's also available at microcenter.com. This is Benjamin Rockwell of Computer Talk Radio, and I live just a couple of miles away from my local Micro Center, and I've been shopping there for years. From Apple to Windows, they've got what you need. CPUs, got them. Screwdrivers and other tools, yep. Cables, televisions, scanners, projectors, cameras, they have it all. Micro Center is a place which fills your electronic needs. What are you looking for? Media centers, monitors, mice, MP3 players, media, modems, motherboards, memory. Those are just the M's. They aren't regional, but spread across our great land from Virginia to California. Each one is service and repair, in-store clinics, and business services too. Microcenter.com is their online store, a place where you can get your regular online ordering needs met. From the hobbyist to the professional, the brand name, or building it yourself, Micro Center is your resource. Check out microcenter.com today. Microcenter.com.
I am going through a countdown right now of all kinds of websites. The most important website I can tell you about is computertalkradio.com. I like how I worked that in, computertalkradio.com. We just covered Reddit. We are going through the most popular social media websites. Reddit has 85 million people every month. Jumping in at number 8, Instagram, 100 million people every month. Instagram is also a photo sharing website, and it's a different kind of direction versus storing all of your photos and videos in one spot and people just go to it whenever. It's become sort of a push platform where you push those photos to your friends. Tumblr is an interesting blogging platform. It is used more in visual content. So you can go through and push your content, your blog post, which is done in whatever different content format that you are using, and you basically follow your friends, you follow other users, and you see their content, and hopefully you get followed back. It's very much kind of like the Twitter in that concept, or Facebook. You follow people that follow you, and people also reblog the various posts. So if you post something awesome, you could wind up with other people reposting, and that kind of pushes you up further and further. Google Plus, number 6, it's 120 million people. Google Plus, very similar to the concept originally to Facebook, and that kind of held it back. It's still kind of this interesting thing where we're utilizing it, but we're not always aware because we're utilizing Gmail, or we're utilizing some of these other facets of information that are sitting there underneath of the Google platform. So it kind of blurs together. Pinterest. Pinterest is a very interesting approach, and it allows you to create kind of like a corkboard. Basically, just you're decorating your board, if you will. I mean, this is the best way to describe it. And you're putting up pictures. You're putting up all kinds of different images. But it's also moved into a social shopping concept. What is that? Well, you can buy products. You can basically push your favorite products by posting up, a picture. And that's kind of how they've monetized that. 250 million people are utilizing it every month. It was the fastest standalone website ever to reach 10 million visits, unique visits in a month. So it still holds that record. It's quite amazing. The next one is one you may have heard about. I'm very fond of this one. It is a social network for professionals. 255 million business people use LinkedIn on a regular basis. And this is basically used for things like advancing your career, for looking up information in regards to people you might want to do business with. And there's a lot of stuff on there where you can promote yourself, you can promote your business, you can make connections. I will tell you, people connect up with me and they basically want to sell me information, or sell me not information, they want to sell me products. So they connect up with me because they know that I'm fitting into a particular category. Now, of course, we don't want to necessarily chase after stuff like that, but it allows us to make use of sort of our vast network of friends and say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you guys know anybody who would be interested in that particular service? Twitter is the next one. 310 million people use Twitter every month. Real-time microblogging. What is that? Well, okay, so it was 140 characters originally, and it's they're tweaking it back and forth. There's a matter of changes that are coming where it used to just be everything. They're looking to dial that back, kind of twisting it scarily, I think, like Facebook did, but that's okay. We will see how that rolls out. But also expanding the limit, the whole idea of how much information you're going to put on your Twitter comments. 140 characters originally. I think it's still 140. I think, I'm doing this from memory, I think it's going up to 10,000 characters, which means it may completely change the entire concept of what we're thinking about for Twitter. YouTube. Well, YouTube. Yeah, it is social media because we are seeing a lot of things where people are utilizing it to spread information, and they've got their friends on there, and they're developing new friends. And yes, there is a lot in regards to YouTube that is of the big, huge commercial level kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, we are currently looking at putting Computer Talk Radio up on YouTube. But that's another story altogether. I think we're probably going to just put the audio up there with some basic graphical information about what we're talking about. But we'll see how that evolves. The last item, the big guy, Facebook. YouTube has 1 billion people. Facebook, according to Alexa, 1.1 billion. Top social network on the web. This monstrous thing is just out there. It is how we communicate. It's got everything on there. We've got news. We've got, there's people who are various ads there. We can see what all of our friends are doing. We can ignore our friends, which is no different than what we sometimes do in real life. Lots of video up there. Lots of everything. They keep studying it within to see how they can improve it, and they're doing pretty good so far. We'll see how it all rolls out in the course of the next decade or so. Keith M. Zedor joins me next here on Computer Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Benjamin Rockwell. Most of us use digital cameras nowadays, but what do we do with those old pictures and slides in the back of the closet? Well, let me tell you about Legacy Digital Productions. They specialize in taking your old memories on film, videotape, and slides and digitizing them to DVDs. If you have boxes of old slides, then you know they fade more and more each year. Let Legacy Digital scan them for you and stop the aging process dead in its tracks. You'll get beautiful 10-megapixel digital files, color-corrected and ready for printing. All this is done faster and cheaper than buying a film scanner and doing it yourself. Your files are then burned onto gold archival DVD discs where they will last for generations. Call right now, mention my name, Benjamin Rockwell, and receive a 30% discount on your order. Call toll-free 1-866-2-LEGACY. That's 1-866-2-LEGACY. And tell them Benjamin sent you. Your memories are priceless, so call 866-2-LEGACY now.
The phone number, 888-NERD, 888, that's 888-6373, 888.
Sorry. I was dialing the Computer Talk Radio studios from my rotary telephone.
Yeah, you know what? We shouldn't make fun of it. I bet you there's at least one listener out there that still has a rotary dial telephone.
Yes, and I'm sure their computer is a HAL 9000.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen that. That
was back in the days when you thought it was cool when your cable box could go on your lap because it was connecting to the TV with a cord, and you had those little blender buttons where you could change the channels. Do you remember that cable box?
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yes, right here in this galaxy.
Alrighty, so one of the topics I did recently was software maintenance and hardware maintenance that we do at the springtime, and I'm wondering what kind of things that you would do as far as maintenance if you were to go on out. Somebody hasn't touched and done any maintenance on their Apple in a matter of 3-4 years. Yeah, exactly. What are the things that you look at?
It's a lot more common than you would think, Benjamin, even on the Mac side. I go to many clients' homes. I mean, once they've been clients for years, I have them on an upgrade path so I can tell them what best practices are. But I actually just had a brand new client this past week who had called me up because they were no longer able to print. And in the process of troubleshooting and correcting the issue I was called out for, we made some discoveries that her computer was actually very vulnerable. And a number of these vulnerabilities stemmed from a lack of backing up and a lack of proper annual maintenance.
Okay.
You don't need...
Yeah, backups is number one on the list. Has to be.
You don't need to be doing major system updates on a monthly or weekly basis, but you should be scheduling to have them done at least once a year. And so I go out to this new client's house, and I see that they are running Mountain Lion, which is 10.8. And you know that most people today are running 10.11, which is El Capitan, and macOS Sierra, which will be 10.12, was just introduced. So this person was a solid 4 operating systems out of date. Now, here's another interesting thing. They had their two-factor authentication turned on, and anybody with an Apple device that uses an Apple ID, in order to make it more secure, two-factor authentication in which you log in and then you get a text message from Apple with a code that you then have to put in, that does make your system more secure. However, because this person was still running Mountain Lion, they would get the text message, but their operating system on their desktop was not updated enough to then prompt them for an input field for that code. And so it wasn't until we actually backed their computer up and then upgraded them to El Capitan, when we finally relogged in with their Apple ID, we were then able to get the code and authenticate with their two-factor authentication.
Okay. All right. So going back to the backups and then occasional patching and updating and bringing it to the latest OS. What else would you do to a system like if it hasn't been touched like that one?
Well, one of the things I would keep in mind, if the system has an operating system that old, it's probably at least that old itself, which means that it's probably using an amount of RAM commensurate with what was the standard when that computer was sold.
Sure, years ago.
We check, and we find that this machine is only running with 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
So if you're going to upgrade it to a modern operating system, then what you need to do is upgrade the memory. So from our appointment last week, we ordered this client some extra memory. We ordered a 16 gigabyte upgrade kit.
Okay, yeah.
And then we also ordered them a G drive with a Thunderbolt connection. And this was great because when these things arrived and I got on site today to set them up, I popped the memory in. There's 2 open slots. So we did not need to pull the old memory. In addition to the 8 gigabytes that she had in there, I said 4 gigabytes earlier. I'm thinking about 2 different machines. Yeah, well, okay. So she had 8 gigabytes. We got her a 16 gigabyte upgrade kit. And because of the number of slots in the 27-inch iMac, we were actually able to repurpose the old memory in tandem with the new memory. So we actually left her with a machine with 24 gigabytes of RAM.
Oh, wow.
On top of that, we got her a 3 terabyte G drive, which she'll be able to take with her to her new Mac, because this current Mac has about maybe 2 years of life left in it. And we ran the Time Machine backup. And the time machine backup with a Thunderbolt connection, with an old FireWire connection, Benjamin, I would have expected this backup to take 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
With a Thunderbolt cable, it took 20 minutes.
Nice.
Absolutely
nice.
Amazing.
Wow.
So we left her with a machine today that was up to date, current, and completely backed up. And so all of her data was secured.
Very cool. That's why I call you My Mac Guru. Of course, available at mymacguru.com.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
This is Benjamin Rockwell.
And I'm Keith M. Sedor.
I'll be back with more Computer Talk Radio in just a moment. Years ago, I found a web hosting company that fit my needs as a computer nerd, as a radio show host, and just a normal person. Recently, though, it was clear to me that it was time to upgrade, but I had a choice between my old plan and the new one at 7 times the cost. It was that awkward point where I could choose between a sip of water or being dunked in a pool. I searched around, comparing the many options for someone like me. After searching around for 3 weeks, there it was, SiteGround. In proper fashion, I tested their customer service, their knowledge, and their willingness to do things the right way. The SiteGround salesman made sure that I didn't overbuy and get a 50-gallon bucket when a 32-ounce soda would do. These guys know WordPress, Joomla, and regular standard websites. These guys at SiteGround are awesome. SiteGround.com. Site, S-I-T-E, ground.com. The robot revolution is coming. Well, okay, maybe it's not quite a revolution yet, and I think it's probably going to be quite a ways off. But there are some very interesting things going on over in Europe. Apparently, the European Union is reviewing a number of things in regards to robot workers and classifying them as, quote, electronic persons. On top of that, the owners of the robots might have to start paying Social Security for them under this kind of plan. Well, okay, so it's not really directly Social Security for the robots themselves. The concept is, and this is something that I wish that we would see politicians do this more often and start thinking about long-term consequences about everything that they are doing. This concept right here is looking forward and saying, okay, we are replacing humans with robots. We are reducing the workforce through all of the savings that we're making off of these robots. By doing this, we're going to have less people paying into Social Security. We're going to have less people paying in to all of the different things that are supposed to be there to keep us safe in retirement. Especially when you consider that people are living older and older, more and more years as time goes by, and robots are going to be taking more and more jobs as time goes by. So what they're going to do is they're looking at requiring that people will have to declare savings that they made in Social Security contributions by using robots instead of people, and then paying those contributions. So in other words, you're still going to have to pay as if based off of how many quote-unquote employees, whether they are real employees or electronic employees, and all of that money goes into a fund to make sure that everybody wins, or at least once we get to retirement. That's presuming we ever get there. Because, of course, well, people are living longer, and yeah, they're saying we should be retiring later. I figured by the time I get to retire, I'll be 90-something. Who knows? Maybe not quite that bad. But I think it's interesting that they're thinking about this now. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be the best idea to start doing this now, as far as to start saying, hey, we're going to have to pay this. But you're planning ahead. You're thinking ahead. But then again, is this a matter of government reaching out for more of our money to prop up a system that not everybody has confidence in, a system that not everybody feels the greatest about? I don't know that Social Security is going to be there when I retire, and I'm already getting a lot closer than some of the young folks, like my son and his wife, and they're having to plan. And yeah, that can be rather disconcerting, can't it? Yeah, this is Benjamin Rockwell. You're listening to Computer Talk Radio.
Let me tell you about The Radio Factory, an exciting new venue for talk radio. It's the internet, the wave of the present. My name is Benjamin Rockwell, and I'm the host of a syndicated radio program, Computer Talk Radio. So I know the internet is here and now. Many of the hosts at theradiofactory.com have their own podcasts or radio shows across the country, but many people like the comfort of listening to their own special radio show at a specific time and day, much like we watch live television. The internet, as you're probably aware, is a powerful tool that allows the Radio Factory to deliver unique programming with far more variety than the windbags who are simply about contriving up viewpoints to get you riled up. Additionally, you'll find that many of the programs are shorter, giving more information in less time. Stick with theRadioFactory.com and see how it evolves to keep you entertained, interested, informed, and above all, intelligent. After all, the Radio Factory motto is building your intelligence one talk show at a time. TheRadioFactory.com.
He makes computers seem easy, but that pocket protector says otherwise. And now, it's time for Computer Talk Radio with Benjamin Rockwell.
The website, computertalkradio.com, computertalkradio.com. The phone number, 888-NERD, 888, that's 888-6373, 888. I'm a computer nerd, and that's why people ask me nerdy questions. And one of the questions that I got recently was from Shelley, and she is going to be buying a gift for someone, a game console, and she wanted to understand a little bit more in regards to what is going on after E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which was last week. Now, I'm going to tell you that there is a lot to this concept. All right, so yes, last week in this time slot, we talked about the expo. And there were a lot of different things, but one of the big things was that coming next year, in somewhere around the first or second quarter, I believe it was in March, but it could be a little bit late, will be the next Nintendo, the Nintendo NX. Project Scorpio will likely be out in time for Christmas, as well as whatever the next PlayStation evolution is. So we're looking at next year, so at least 8 months, 9 months away for the Nintendo, and probably a year away for the PlayStation and Xbox. But here's the thing. If you're looking to do a console now, what are you going to do? So the Xbox 360 led the charge towards killing off Nintendo and PlayStation, but not completely. It is now, of course, the Xbox One. The Xbox One Slim is just a short ways away. It depends on when you're going to buy the gift, and also how old is a person you're going to buy the gift for. If you're going to decide to buy one for this year, whether it's going to be for going back to school, which seems a little odd, buying a video game console for back to school, or maybe for Christmas, but there you go. So the Xbox One Slim is very popular. However, or will be popular, or the Xbox One is very popular. However, we're also talking about something that we need to be thinking about, and that is what age group that you're aiming at. So it turns out that anything under about 12, 10 to 12, somewhere in there, under that range, you're looking for a family-oriented console, something that the whole family, the little kids can play, and that's going to be actually a Nintendo. Why? Because the gaming over there is very appealing to the kids. When we talk about 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds and so forth, they really enjoy the graphics. It's a little bit more of a friendly atmosphere. The gaming over there is targeting that age group, that age of audience. And anybody can play these games. This is not one of those situations where you buy one and you're stuck with that for the rest of your life. As a matter of fact, the whole Xbox concept really built that up. The Xbox concept said, hey, once you're done with a Nintendo, let's move you on up. Let's give you a platform that covers both sides of the road here. And now, don't get me wrong. Sony did well with the PlayStation, and the PlayStation really has a lot of that rough and tumble, that nitty-gritty, the various action-oriented games that you might be interested in if you are of that particular nature. The neat thing is, with Xbox, you kind of straddle these two different fields. There are games that are going to be aiming more towards the younger audience, and there are going to be games that are going to be aiming more towards that aggressive audience, leaving a lot of stuff in the center that's also moderate. One of the best racing games ever, Forza. They've got a brand new release of that coming. That is going to be very exciting. If you can hold out for the Xbox One Slim, there's a lot of different features. I mentioned this last week, but also a matter of you're going to want to get an external hard drive instead of getting the big, huge version of the Xbox One Slim. Just buy, I just checked it out, 5 terabytes for $129. That's an amazing amount of space, especially when we're talking about video gaming. You're going to need decent amount of space for downloading those games. Now, the whole concept of how we're gaming is shifting, so you will want to make sure that you do have high-speed internet access. Your standard broadband that you get through cable or DSL or whatever you've got should be fine. However, I want to tack on one little bit of information for you. If you are not already doing this, I want you to explore the concept of looking at Netflix, of looking at Hulu, of looking at Amazon Prime, and seeing the video content that's available there. It's actually quite exciting. The amount of television viewing that you can do now apart from your cable system is amazing. It's great. And it's encouraging me to move down a different direction. Yes, I'm waiting for the Xbox One Slim. It is going to be our new central console. We do have a Nintendo around the house. Benny has an Xbox One, but he got married and moved out, taking the Xbox One with him. Now, my wife and I do have an Apple TV, but it's the third generation. We're not able to watch Amazon Prime on it. So we kind of put these things together. We work through all of this, and we said, hey, let's look at reducing down our cable bill, which is a great idea. It's a grand idea. We've got all kinds of stuff that we watch, but most of that is available, yes, through the Xbox One. So, great idea for all of us to keep in mind. Keep in mind, with whatever console that you get, you will want to make sure that you have a wired connection to the entertainment center. You'll probably want to make sure that you've got some fairly decent audio as well. It's one of those things which, yeah, when you are running around, if you're playing a video game that has a bunch of shooting, you want the explosions, you want the gun sounds to sound a little bit more beefy than what the TV speakers put out. Now, don't get me wrong. You also want to make sure you have a remote control to turn down the volume as needed. It's one of those things that I have found is really a plus to the whole concept, that whole situation, where we've got control over the volume and we can make it really a nice immersive experience. Of course, we also have to review what size screen you have. The nice thing about the new Xbox One Slim, yes, it will be able to do 4K. They have the capabilities within the video card for 4K, which is very nice. Of course, there are very few 4K screens out there. They are just now sinking just barely below the $1,000 mark. I've received notice that I'm going to be reviewing one actually in the coming coming months, and it will be the first 4K screen under $1,000. And it's out, actually, I think it's out right now. If not, it's going to be out very soon. So anyways, that gives you kind of an idea in regards to what to do with video gaming. Video gaming is an entire concept. It's an entire world. I could actually spend hours on end talking about video gaming and all of the different games that are available. The best thing to do, though, is without dropping hints, and this goes to Shelley, without dropping hints, find out what console the gift recipient is likely to want. I know. It's one of those things where you don't want to let the cat out of the bag. You don't want to reveal your intentions, but sometimes a little bit of talking, a little bit of just listening, a little bit of paying attention to the various games. There may be a certain set of games that are available only on one platform or two platforms or the others. So, exploration. It's kind of a fun concept. This is Benjamin Rockwell. You're listening to Computer Talk Radio. I'll be back with more in just a moment.
Let me tell you about The Radio Factory, an exciting new venue for talk radio. It's the internet, the wave of the present. My name is Benjamin Rockwell, and I'm the host of a syndicated radio program, Computer Talk Radio. So I know the internet is here and now. Many of the hosts at theradiofactory.com have their own podcasts or radio shows across the country, but many people like the comfort of listening to their own special radio show at a specific time and day, much like we watch live television. The internet, as you're probably aware, is a powerful tool that allows the Radio Factory to deliver unique programming with far more variety than the windbags who are simply about contriving up viewpoints to get you riled up. Additionally, you'll find that many of the programs are shorter, giving more information in less time. Stick with theradiofactory.com and see how it evolves to keep you entertained, interested, informed, and above all, intelligent. After all, the Radio Factory motto is building your intelligence one talk show at a time. theradiofactory.com.
The phone number, 888-NERD, 888, that's 888-637-3888. I'm going to go through some of these a little bit more, I'll say rapid fire. The concept here of my answering your questions is, of course, to bring them here to the radio. But if you have questions you don't want them answered on the radio, it doesn't matter. You still call me. I still answer, and I will still inform you. Most people still don't mind my answering the questions on the air, though. Memo contacted me, and he wants to get into CAD, computer-assisted drafting. This is actually kind of a neat field for me because I actually work for an aerospace subcontractor as an IT manager. That's one of the things that I do. And actually, I don't do the CAD part, but I do build the systems, or actually, I no longer build them. I spec them. And Memo was looking for what my recommendations would be overall. Here's the thing. I can give you all kinds of recommendations in regards to a system to run computer-assisted drafting, but a lot of it's going to be dependent on what software program you're running. It's going to be dependent on what kind of concepts you're dealing with. For instance, there are CAD programs. I like Autodesk, the makers of AutoCAD. They've got something called Tinkercad, and then they've got something called Fusion 360. That's great for doing 3D printing. So if you're doing 3D printing, yes, you're still doing CAD. You're still doing computer-assisted drafting, but you don't need the same level of horsepower as if you were running something like CATIA. CATIA is a very heavy, high-grade software that comes from France. company called Dassault. If you have heard of of Dassault before, Dassault, or if you have not heard of them, they are an aerospace manufacturer as well. They make some airplanes, or at least I think they're related to the company that makes airplanes. Anyways, any high-end computer these days is going to be able to do most of the CAD stuff that you're going to deal with when you're dealing with 3D printing. Now, if you're dealing with something along the lines of CATIA, you're going to need, yes, that higher-end video card. And when I say higher-end, most people don't spend this much on their entire computer. Yes, I'm talking about $500, $800, or even more, because everything in regards to that video card is what's going to be slowing you down. It's doing all of the processing, all of that thinking of how to present that information onto the screen. And what are we dealing with, CAD? Yes, presenting information on a screen. Beyond that, an i7 processor, great. You're going to want to throw at least 16 gigs of RAM at this thing. If you're doing again, this is if you're doing the CATIA. If you're doing regular stuff, 8 gigs of RAM is going to help. 8 gigs is kind of that sweet spot right now for your money. If you get a little bit more, you get 10 or 12. I don't mind. But 16, 20, even 32 gigs of RAM if you're dealing with some of the higher end of the big, huge, monstrous CAD items. This is one of those situations, though, where you kind of want to get what your budget can allow over at one of the big, huge manufacturers, one of the companies that specs them out, or that allows you to modify specs. I'm thinking of Dell. I have had some issues with Dell in the past. We've kind of come to an agreement that some of those issues have been resolved, but this is one of those areas where, you want a system that's built to what you need. Solid state drive, definitely. As a matter of fact, if you need multiple drives, if you need to really move data off, I would get a solid state drive as your main hard drive, and then you can tack on additional hard drives aftermarket. Why do I say aftermarket? Because Dell charges an arm and a leg for them if you're getting them with the system. So that's a key thing. Make sure you get some good big monitors too. A pair of them somewhere in that 24 to 27 inch range is really ideal. Robert is having a problem in regards to a hard drive, or he was, and he was trying to install Windows 10 on it, and it kept on just choking. And we went through some different messages that were popping up in odd spots. And I said, okay, it's probably the hard drive, the way it was acting. There are some times when memory will be an issue. What did we do? Well, he did have another system, and we sent him a program that was a memory tester. There's a bunch of freeware items out there. I said, here, download this, put this on, burn this to a CD or a thumb drive. They're your option on some of these things, and put it in and test it out. Memory tested out fine. And that's usually one of the big things. The CPU tested out fine. So the hard drive, that was the next thing. And really at this point, when we look at this, yes, there's a possibility of repairing hard drives, but the reality is, no, don't bother with any kind of repair for a hard drive, especially on a newer system. Or a system that you're basically starting from scratch on. $100 can buy you all kinds of hard drive space. It's amazing. If you need the size of it, if you need the SSD drive, again, $100 hard drive. Yeah, don't spend all kinds of money and all kinds of time on this. Just move on. Susie contacted me and did have a question in regards to when is the ideal time to buy an iPhone. Well, here's the thing. Not right now. Not right now. We know that we're going to be hearing fairly soon about what the next iPhone is going to do, what the next iPhone details are going to be. It's not now. It's probably going to be sometime right around September or so. And that is when we're going to find out when to buy an iPhone. If you can wait, if you've got one right now, which Susie was actually kind of holding off and has been holding off for a while, and finally decided, okay, she saw one of her grandkids with one, and she said, I have to have one. So that's fine. That is totally fine. Here's the thing. Wait for the next version to come out. You will want to figure out which carrier you want to go with. If you are already with a carrier, you already have a smartphone, great. Susie is a little bit older, so I did suggest, as Keith M. Cedar would have suggested, get the larger screen. You know, the 6S Plus, it has that larger screen to it. That's going to be pretty good. We did discuss a little bit of if she really needed a phone, a smartphone, or if she wanted to move to something like an iPad. And the reality is, in her situation, she does have we'll call it a dumb phone. She does have a cellular phone. That was a fun term. I hadn't heard that one in a little while. But basically, she did have that. And when I went through, I said, look, yeah, replace it. Move to the largest screen available on the Apple side. There's no need to, if you've got the money for it, and go for something a little bit larger. It's going to help with the vision. It's going to help with, we arrive with that at that certain age where, yeah, those smaller screens, just a lot of the stuff they've got on them are just too small. It's just, you can't see it. And I admit, at 47 years old, I've actually arrived at that, and I'm actually very happy that my 6S is just enough larger over the old 5S. This is Benjamin Rockwell. Marty Winston's coming up next here on Computer Talk Radio.
Micro Center, home to all kinds of electronics and computer items, has over 20 locations across the country, and it's also available at microcenter.com. This is Benjamin Rockwell of Computer Talk Radio, and I live just a couple of miles away from my local Micro Center, and I've been shopping there for years. From Apple to Windows, they've got what you need. CPUs, got them. Screwdrivers and other tools, yep. Cables, televisions, scanners, projectors, cameras, they have it all. Micro Center is a place which fills your electronic needs. What are you looking for? Media centers, monitors, mice, MP3 players, media, modems, motherboards, memory. Those are just the M's. They aren't regional, but spread across our great land from Virginia to California. Each one is service and repair, in-store clinics, and business services too. Microcenter.com is their online store, a place where you can get your regular online ordering needs met. From the hobbyist to the professional, the brand name, or building it yourself, Microcenter is your resource. Check out Microcenter.com today. Microcenter.com.
The website, computertalkradio.com, computertalkradio.com. If you have any questions for us, you have any comments on what we're doing here in any regards with the show, go to the Contact Us point. It's about just below the first page. You scroll down just a little bit. It'll say Contact Us, and then it'll send you to a new page and fill in your information, and we will get back with you. Marty Winston joins me now, and sometimes what happens is we ahead of time he says, hey, we're going to talk about this, so he gets into all kinds of details, and I know I've got kind of an idea of where we're going. The email I got from Marty this week was whiskers. Whiskers? Okay, so I have to ask. I mean, have you found some new way to make your shaving, your daily shaving ritual autonomous, or what is going on?
Well, yeah, I use a laser at my neck, and then I never have to shave again.
Wow. Yeah.
Whiskers on an animal are a way to tell when they're encountering something. It's an obstacle detector, if you will.
Okay, so like when a cat goes through like the little pet door, they know they can fit because their whiskers aren't touching on both sides. Okay.
Right. Or they know how much the whisker is touching or whether they can squeeze through.
Sure, yeah.
So the idea of an electronic whisker, something that knows whether or not there's a thing in front of it,
yes,
is very useful when we're dealing with ways to make a home self-aware, self-autonomous. It's also something that happens every day in production line equipment. Typically, in the old days, it actually was a wire whisker on a mechanical switch.
Uh-huh.
I'll jump ahead a few decades. Ultrasonic ranging has been used for that. Whiskers are, in fact, if you think about it, time-of-flight radio frequency, that's radar.
Sure.
SODAR and sonar underwater, SODAR in air, use ultrasonics for that. More recently, we've seen in autonomous cars LiDAR, where a laser or light beam is used for that. But this week, I ran across a device from Sharp Electronics that's tiny and has the ability to sense an object between, about 5 inches and about 6 feet in front of it.
Okay.
And I fall in love with that stuff because my mind starts spinning. I start thinking how I'm going to use it. We talked about having a sensor pod on the ceiling of every room. Well, you also have a ceiling fan in a lot of rooms. And I was thinking about the challenge of how do you know if the ceiling fan has stopped in a way where the blade is blocking the sensor array?
Oh, wow. Oh, I had never thought about that, but you're right.
So we're putting one of these into the pod, and if it sees the fan blade there, and this whole thing might take several seconds to happen, it will go to the controller for the fan and micropulse it until it senses the blade is out of the way.
Okay. So just applying for just a brief moment, just the 120 volts, and kind of like, you walk into the room, you flip on the switch for just a second, and it starts that fan going just a little bit. Okay.
Right, but, we'd have a lot more control. We've got automation doing this stuff.
Sure, yeah. It doesn't have to be a full second. It's an eighth of a second or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, imagine also that we're in a garage.
Yeah.
And we have one of these overhead. We want to know if the garage door is open or not. Well, hey, if it gets between me and the car or me and the floor of the garage, I know the distance is not going to be the same. So sensing an open or closed garage door, done deal. Sensing whether there's a car in the space, done deal.
Sure.
Sensing that the space is empty, done deal. All with these kind of whisker things. And at the front doorbell, put one in the doorbell housing, and you can create a doorbell that rings one way if somebody pushes the button and rings another way if they're at the door and don't push the button.
And that was one of the things you talked about a little while back, a matter of you wanted to know if somebody rang the doorbell or somebody didn't ring the doorbell.
Right. Many times somebody, for example, will drop off a package and not tell us.
Sure, yeah.
And, there's a lot of reasons you might want that package inside. For example, if it's a hot day and they shipped you ice cream, you want to go get it.
Yeah. I ran into that just a matter of, a couple of weeks ago. Somebody shipped me a refrigerated package, and where the Postal Service put it, or UPS or whoever it was way out of the way. I had no idea, but something said when I glanced out of the little peephole, something doesn't look right. So I open the door, which I normally don't do. I just look out the peephole, see if there's anything there. Oh yeah, sure enough, there's a little package there. Great. I would have missed it had I been just a little less attentive, and this allows you to check that. That's very cool.
I might add the same technology can tell you the liquid level in a tank.
Okay. So you're thinking of applying this to your water tanks?
The water storage tanks, sure. Thinking about applying it, maybe. I don't want to do this myself, but maybe to the septic tank.
Sure.
And if we're dealing with a pool, I don't know how I'd use it.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that before all of the water evaporated off the top of your pool down to an uncomfortable level, you'd probably notice that one.
Well, I might, yeah, especially if I'm swimming on raw concrete.
Yeah, it gets a little bit difficult when you're doing that. It get a little abrasive.
Well, it would be hard to tell. I'm such a bad swimmer, I'd probably swim the same whether there's water or not.
For me, I'm big enough, so I just always float.
I'd like to see you float in an empty pool.
Yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. So Whiskers, that is an amazing concept, and that's something that's going to stick with me for the next week or so.
Well, then shave.
Yeah, there you go. Then shave. All right, so that's the voice of Marty Winston over there. He is the proprietor of the 40-year house, 40yearhouse.com, and check out the website. There's a lot of stuff there as far as where he's going with this. Autonomous and long-lasting and saving electricity, green, the whole bit. 40yearhouse.com. This is Benjamin Rockwell. You're listening to Computer Talk Radio. I'll be back with more in just a moment.
Hey guys, this is Benny Rockwell. Most of us use video cameras nowadays, but what about those old movie films in the back of your closet? Well, let me tell you about Legacy Digital Productions. They specialize in taking your old memories on film, videotape, and slides and digitizing them to DVDs. Imagine Grandpa's old 8mm and 16mm films that are just sitting in a box getting old and fading away. Legacy Digital will clean and recondition those films, capture them digitally frame by frame, and then produce beautiful DVDs of your precious memories on long-lasting, archive-quality discs. They don't use a projector, and your films can't be damaged in the process, the best available for families like yours. The final results are gorgeous. What better way to preserve those precious memories for future generations? Call right now, mention my name, Benny Rockwell, and receive a 30% discount on your order. Call toll-free 1-866-2-LEGACY. That's 1-866-2-LEGACY. 1-866-253-4229. And tell them Benny sent you. Your memories are priceless, so call 866-2-LEGACY now.
The website, computertalkradio.com, computertalkradio.com. Steve Kesky joins me now, and Steve, I understand you've come up with a couple of different items in regards to the 3D printing world.
Oh, yes. They are finally saying they have perfected 3D printed food.
Okay.
Ready to eat food.
Well, all right. So I am curious about that because you may recall, what was that? That was 2 years ago at CES. You and I had 3D printed candy, but it was
not all that good.
Not all that good. Yeah, it was like a bland sugar cube or something along those lines. It was not what I was really expecting.
Yeah. Well, this new unit has a tablet screen on the front of it, so that you don't actually see it doing its thing in the background. Right. So there it is, and it does its thing behind, and then you just take the plate out, and you've got a ready-made meal of whatever you've chosen from this on the screen.
Okay.
And it prints them up nicely. Well, because it's nice and warm, because if the material that you're printing with is warm, then it'll be warm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it would be hot, though.
Yeah, I don't imagine that it's going to be able to print, let's say, cold items. I don't foresee it printing popsicles, for instance. So, what kind of foods did they say they're able to print now?
They're not. They don't really say what kind of food. They've got this woman sitting there, and she's got a fork, and she's using the fork to eat the meal. Of course, she doesn't have a knife in her hand, so you know that it doesn't have probably the great consistency.
It's probably 3D printing tofu in various shapes, and this is one of those things where I know that over the course of the coming years we're going to see more and more of this, but I don't think it's a concept that is really going to get refined until we've gotten out of the experimental phase, we can do this, to the point where we've got famous chefs getting involved. Gordon Ramsay, Wolfgang Puck, that kind of concept.
Look at it this way, okay? Back in the 60s and in the late 50s, early 60s, they came out with these food mats.
Yeah.
Like an automat, so that you can walk in, you put your money in, you open up the thing, and you take your sandwich out.
Sure.
Walk over and put it in the microwave, and you heat it up.
Yeah.
This is just one more step in being able to have ready-made food. And in this case, they cooked, what they came up with was a meal in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Now, do you have 15 minutes to spare?
Well, if I'm hitting a button and walking away and the food's ready in 15 minutes, but it's got to be good. That's the issue for me. We're going to need somebody's hands on with this to refine those ingredients instead of just I don't know. I think I'm just picturing in my mind. So what are they going to do? They're going to give us noodles, 3D printed noodles. Well, okay, is that really going to be that much easier than popping a cup of noodles in the microwave? I don't foresee that. But I know that there's a sort of an effort that's been moving along for us to be able to 3D print meat. Because of the concept of they can vary the texture and they can basically make the strands of the beef, if you will. But that's something that's way up in the high end conceptual phases at the moment.
Well, we're not in Star Trek quite yet.
Yes.
With that kind of good stuff, but it's interesting that they're continually trying to refine this process so that they can do these kind of things, and I can understand it for countries that are overpopulated.
Sure, but I struggle with the concept of, so at that point, okay, so it's going to print the various ingredients. It's going to mix them together in various proportions and whatnot. But how do we have any kind of quality control on those? I mean, we're all going to, everybody's going to. I remember the early 3D printing concept. There were a number of companies that said, hey, we're going to have a 3D printer and it's going to be low priced, but you have to use our material. Well, okay, but their material was either supposedly really awesome and really expensive, or it was not expensive. It was standard price as everybody else's, but they decided to make a profit off of it, so they used cheap material instead. Yeah. So I can see that food concept, it's going to be a ways off, especially when you consider rich people. The people who you need to target them in order to get it down. Somebody has to pay $5,000 for it before we are able to start paying $2,500 before we start paying $1,000 for it, and so forth.
Sure.
And the rich people aren't going to buy $5,000 gizmos to make bad food.
That's true.
Yeah.
They don't even do that for a chef.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, this is Benjamin Rockwell. That's Steve Keski. You're listening to Computer Talk Radio. I'll be back with my closing comments in just a moment. Years ago, I found a web hosting company that fit my needs as a computer nerd, as a radio show host, and, well, a normal person. Recently, though, it became clear to me that it was time to upgrade. I had a choice between my old plan and the new one at 7 times the cost. It was that awkward point where I could choose between a sip of water or being dunked in a pool. I searched around, comparing the many options for someone like me. After looking for 3 weeks, there it was, SiteGround. In proper fashion, I tested their customer service, their knowledge, and their care, their willingness to do things the right way. The SiteGround salesman made sure that I didn't overbuy and get a 50-gallon bucket when all I needed was a 1-gallon bucket. The folks at SiteGround know WordPress, Joomla, and more. SiteGround.com. SITE ground.com for your web hosting needs. SiteGround. So Google has been doing far more than just blacklisting different concepts out there along the lines of what we covered recently on Computer Talk Radio about the idea of if you were to search for, well, one of them was Crooked Hillary Clinton, which was that big, huge Donald Trump saying and whatnot, and a few other things that were political in nature. But you know what? They also have a lot of other things that they are taking part in regards to censorship. For instance, Google Maps. There's a lot of different areas on Google Earth that they have blocked. Now, of course, they've said... Their former CEO said, if you don't like, essentially paraphrasing, if you don't like the fact that they have photographed your home, just move. Wow. But yeah, they have eliminated a lot of residences of wealthy people, military installations, and stuff like that. So that is, of course, one level of censorship that they're doing. YouTube, anybody can flag a quote-unquote inappropriate video, and then somebody from Google looks at it, maybe, kind of, sometime along in there. And yes, what happens is, along the way, a number of people are banned, are blocked, are whatever, especially when we talk about their political viewpoints. So yeah, as a matter of fact, we're looking right now at putting Computer Talk Radio up on YouTube, and I'm hoping that my political commentary, what little there is, doesn't wind up getting us banned. And then, of course, there's a number of different things in regards to news and their AdWords, as well as accounts. And there's a lot of different stuff. Google reserves the right, for instance, to stop providing services to you at any time for any reason whatsoever because, well, they can. They also have no customer service department. They have no real appeal process. So, yeah, they're going through and they're doing that. And then, on top of all of that, their search engine blacklists cover all kinds of different searches around the world. All kinds of different things. For instance, if you were to go to, I don't know, someplace like China and start looking up Tibet, they're not going to even acknowledge it in China. It's one of those things where they try to suppress some of these things on behalf of the local countries. Kind of chilling. It kind of just boggles my mind as far as how much this search engine that should have all of the information is actually suppressing information. Maybe it is about time that we start looking at the various other alternatives for Google, for YouTube, for whatever else is out there. Consider it. And just think about what could happen next. You could be censored for whatever, for any reason whatsoever. Yeah. This is Benjamin Rockwell. You're listening to Computer Talk Radio. We'll catch you next week.
Let let me tell you about the Radio Factory, an exciting new venue for talk radio. It's the internet, the wave of the present. My name is Benjamin Rockwell, and I'm the host of a syndicated radio program, Computer Talk Radio, so I know the internet is here and now. Many of the hosts at theradiofactory.com have their own podcasts or radio shows across the country, but many people like the comfort of listening to their own special radio show at a specific time and day, much like we watch live television. The internet, as you're probably aware, is a powerful tool that allows the Radio Factory to deliver unique programming with far more variety than the windbags who are simply about contriving up viewpoints to get you riled up. Additionally, you'll find that many of the programs are shorter, giving more information in less time. Stick with theradiofactory.com and see how it evolves to keep you entertained, interested, informed, and above all, intelligent. After all, the Radio Factory motto is building your intelligence one talk show at a time.